Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So here I have another ink comparison video, and this is Blue Ink's comparison number 7. So I think with that, let's go and swab up some of these inks. So I get a lot of questions on how I do these ink videos. So I decided I would add this to the front of each of the ink videos. I put links in the description, but I know some of you watch this on TVs or mobile devices, so you don't get to see this. So first off, the paper is the number one question I get asked. What paper do I use for these ink comparison videos? So this is the original Tomoe River. This is 52 GSM, and it is the white, not the cream, the white. Where possible, I try to go for the white because the cream can actually change the color of the ink just a little bit. So this is Tomoe River 52 GSM in the white. A lot of people get confused as well because I have what looks to be a grid on this page, and it's actually an Oxford Optik pad. These are the pads that I actually use when I'm writing my writing samples for pen reviews or in my Currently Ink. So they have these little squares up here. I just use that because it's a good guide for me. When I put this very thin sheet of Tomoe River over, I can actually see squares, so it helps me write a little bit sort of straight on the page. Not always, but sometimes it does. The other thing that I also have is I have a bottle of water, plain water, and I dip my nib in here. So for consistency, I use the same fountain pen, or I guess it's not a fountain pen, it's using a fountain pen nib though. This is a 3D printed pen from William Shakour in the UK. So he prints this material 3D, and it has a number 8 size Bock nib which I can unscrew, and you can see there. So it is just a dip pen holder for a number 8 size Bock nib, and the idea is I want to have consistency with the writing sample. So I use this, I dip it in the ink, I write, and then I will dip it in here and I will rinse the nib off several times and I will dry it, and then at that point I will then go on to do the next ink swatch and the next writing sample. So there you have it. That's how I do my ink swatches. So I just wanted to show you that here. Now on to the ink comparison video. So the first ink here on this inks comparison video is Monteverde, and it is Blue Velvet Cake. So I think let's go and do an ink swatch. So let's do an ink swatch here. And you can see here that already this is quite a viscousy ink. And when I say viscousy, I'm saying it's a little bit more thicker in ink dye there. So we'll do a second pass over the top half just to show the difference between a wet or a broad and a narrow or a dry writing nib. And this is Monteverde, and it is Blue Velvet Cake. And you can see there that this is drying quite a deep dark blue, getting on to maybe a little bit more like a blue black or a midnight blue. So that's actually starting to look quite interesting. The next ink here on this ink comparison video is Monteverde, and it is Birthday Cake. So we'll do another ink swatch here. Now this is an interesting blue for sure. This kind of reminds me, because of the title called Birthday Cake, this kind of reminds me of the sort of bluish sort of icing that you might get on a cake. We'll do a second pass over the top half just to show the difference between a wet and a broad and a dry or a narrow writing nib. And this is Monteverde. and it is Birthday Cake. And depending on how you look at it, some people may see this as a little bit of a mauvish, purplish coloured ink. Some will see a little bit as a blue coloured ink. Certainly the ink in the bottle looks a little bit more bluish than on the page there. The next ink here is Delta Blue, and this is a really old bottle of Delta Blue that I have. So we'll do an ink swatch. And this is typically an ink that I don't use, and I don't know why, other than it being a small bottle of ink, and I do have issues getting some number 6 size or number 8 size nibs into the bottles, these small bottles. We'll do a second pass here over the top half, and that will just show the difference between a wet or a broad, or a dry or a narrow writing nib. So this is Delta, and it is blue. Now, I am finding both in the ink swatch and also in the writing sample that this is a very dry ink in terms of swatching that colour, and also writing with the nib as well. The next ink is Diamine Shimmertastic, and it's Cobalt Jazz. Now, I say Shimmertastic, this is a shimmer coloured ink, and you'll see a little bit of that shimmer there. There you can see, look at that shimmer. So I'm going to have to shake this bottle up a little bit just to disperse that shimmer, and just make sure it actually gets all into that ink. Now, I know some people say you shouldn't shake ink because it creates air bubbles, but when filling a pen, but with a Shimmertastic ink, or any shimmer particle ink, you kind of need to do it. So we'll do an ink swatch here, and you can see already this is a beautiful deep blue, like a deep ocean blue, I would say. Very, very nice colour. We'll do a second pass over the top half, and then that will just show the difference between a wet or a broad, and a dry and a narrow writing nib. And this is Diamine, and it is Cobalt Jazz, which is a Shimmertastic ink. And then the last ink here on this Blue Inks comparison video is Diamine Shimmertastic Blue Lightning, and you can see all of that shimmer there. Beautiful, beautiful silvery blue shimmer. So again, I'm going to have to shake the bottle a little bit just to get rid of some of that particle, get that flowing into the ink a little bit more there. But hopefully you can see it there. It's actually quite a nice colour. So we'll do an ink swatch. And this is a lovely sort of light blue, sky blue colour. One that I do like a lot, and I've got through a bit of this ink. We'll do a second pass over the top half just to show the difference between a wet or a broad, and a dry and a narrow writing nib. So this is Diamine, and it is blue, and it's lightning. But that does have shimmer particles in it as well. So I think let's take a look at these inks now that they have dried a little bit more. So the first ink here is Monteverde, and it's Blue Velvet Cake. Now, I did say that this is a little bit more of a like midnight blue or a blue black. I'm definitely seeing that there. If you remember, it did go on quite thick, quite viscousy. Is there a difference between a wet and a dry writing nib? To be honest, I'm not really seeing a huge amount. Maybe there is a little bit, but there really, I would say that there's not a lot there. There is shading, a little bit of shading, not a huge amount, I would say, around the pooled area there. And then if I take a look at whether or not the ink is sheening, you can definitely see a nice bright red sheen around areas there, and also down here as well. I'm not seeing it on the writing sample though, but I am seeing it on the ink swatch there. The next ink in this comparison is Monteverde and its Birthday Cake. Now, some of you would say that maybe this isn't a blue ink, it's a little bit more on the sort of mauve or purple. For me, it definitely, the ink inside the bottle and also around the inside of the cap looks more blue. So I decided that I would include that here. And I know a lot of websites do list it as a blue ink as well. Now, can you see the difference between a dark or a wet writing broad nib or a narrow or a dry writing nib? Yes, you definitely can. You can also see some shading going on here in the pulled area, if I just show that up close there. Now, is this ink sheening? I want to say yes. I'm seeing a lot of sort of sheeny areas here. Again, it's not a ink that is really going to be in your face with like a bright red sheen, but I would say that there is the tendency there for that ink to be trying to sheen a little bit. The next ink here is Delta Blue, and I did find that not only the ink swatch but also the writing sample was very dry. This is a bottle I've had for a long time. I honestly don't remember how I picked this one up. I think it may have just been given to me, but it's just an ink that I haven't used a lot, so I thought I would try and ink swatch this up in this video today. Can you see the difference between a wet and a dry writing nib? Definitely you can. You can see a huge amount of shading going on here as well in that pulled area. And if I just bring it up close, you can see that shading there. Now, is there any sheen? Yes, there is some red sheen around the little pulled areas here, or the edges. It's not a hugely sheening ink though, so it's not going to be an overpower sheening ink, but it does have a little bit of sheen there. And I think that's kind of reflected a little bit more in that writing sample as well. Now, the next ink here is a Shimmertastic ink, and it's Diamine Cobalt Jazz, which I do find, if you like a nice glittery shimmer ink, then this is a beautiful ink. So, can you see the difference between a wet and a dry writing nib? A little bit you can, but the main difference I would say is a lot more shimmer than the dry writing or a nib that you would have there. So there probably is some shading going on there. I'm guessing probably more where that shimmer ink is. Now, if I try to show you this here on camera, you'll see just how much that sparkles. It really does sparkle a lot. And look at the writing sample there as well. So this is quite a nice ink, and I have to say, like, you're not, are you going to get some sheen with it? You actually are. Let me show you this here. Around the edges here, there is some red sheen. So you've actually got an ink that is both sheening and shimmer at the same time. Not a huge amount of sheen, but there is a little bit of sheen there, like on the other three inks. And then the last ink here we've got is Diamine Blue Lightning, which is again another great light sky blue Shimmertastic ink with shimmer there. So can you see the difference between a wet and a dry writing nib? Definitely you can. There's a huge difference here. Is there shading going on? Definitely there is. Again, around the pulled areas of that ink where it's laid, and you can see where the shimmer is more. Certainly here, so there definitely is shading going on, but the shimmer on this again is quite nice. It's a beautiful silvery shimmer instead of a gold shimmer on Diamine Cobalt Jazz. So this is very nice, and you can see it there in that writing sample. Very nice. So if you're after a light blue ink with some shimmer, some silver shimmer particles, this definitely is the ink to go for. So there you have it. That's my blue inks comparison number 7 video. If there are any of these inks that you like, let me know in the comments below. Likewise, if there are any other inks you'd like me to compare, then do let me know in the comments below. So that's my Blue Inks comparison number 7 video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.